Bitcoin today. Not Bitcoin yesterday. This is Bitcoin today. Not Bitcoin like. This is Bitcoin today. This is Bitcoin now. Turn up those and let's get the education going. This is Bitcoin now. Don't look down, but Bitcoin is on fire. This thing is, it ain't killing. You have to find something in our trustless world, which is Bitcoin. You know, it is a asset class that protects you. Right? The U.S. federal government's unstable fiscal pattern. The U.S. federal government's unstable fiscal pattern. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today. Not Bitcoin. Not Bitcoin. Not Bitcoin today. Bitcoin. Not Bitcoin today. Oh, Bitcoin. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today. Bitcoin today. No. Not Bitcoin today. Not close. Going by Bitcoin today. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Sell your Bitcoin. Don't look now, but Bitcoin is on.
Chad,
This thing is, you can't kill it.
Good morning, good sir, from Blockkite 954265. How are you?
that piece you just played says you do not sell your Bitcoin, but do you sell your stretch?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I lightened up considerably over the past 4 or 5 months. I think Asteroid Radio on here would tell us it's. I'll let him use the exact words he's used. I still have some, probably, I'm guessing 2% of my portfolio. No, I will not be selling it. It's fine. But
2% of your portfolio is in stretch?
maybe something like that. Yeah, it's very
Okay.
small. I mean, the only
So a
thing
couple,
I'm
couple
buying,
million.
yeah, the only
Okay.
thing, well, I'm no Terrence Michael, but the only thing I'm actively buying with cash at the moment, I have limit orders all over Bitcoin if we go down, and I will fill in like December, to round out my full allocation, but I'm pretty heavy. But yeah, I've got limit orders underneath, but I am buying Treasury inflation protected securities. I don't like the stock market. I can't believe we're talking about portfolio. We never talk about this. I want to talk about Bitcoin. Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be great. I just was asking a simple question. You beach ball was spinning above your head there. I don't know what happened.
Well, I'm all excited. That's why. So I've got a great announcement here for everybody in the room. Andrew Tillman just gave us the green light to work with Luke and we'll call him Bitcoin Ranger and Brooke to roll out doing the circular economy model that they're doing in Buena Vista. We're going to do it. We're going to showcase that at the Midwest Bitcoin Summit. So anybody that hasn't signed up yet for the Midwest Bitcoin Summit, please use the promo code CHODL. And just for the record, the quote unquote kickback is going in to fund part of the treasure hunt. So everybody that's going to participate in these treasure hunts is going to receive Bitcoin and Satoshis on site and then go spend it at the vendor. So like I see Lindy in there, and I believe she'll have a book for sale. If you want to spend it on a book, great. But our goal here is hodl and spend. What they basically do is teach people how to buy Bitcoin with fiat, use fiat to buy Bitcoin to buy what you want. Let's call it a coffee. Let's call it a book. Let's call it whatever it is. So there aren't, the taxes are managed. There aren't tax implications to it. And the exciting part is we're starting to spur merchant adoption through this model. They've added another 2 businesses in Buena Vista. We learned in the last 2 weeks they're up to 21. It's flourishing. It's a great model. And now that I'm seeing under the covers how he does it, it's very tangible, and it's I'm just super excited. So that's why my beach ball's spinning. And I turn it back
What's
over to you.
the What's the discount code if you want to go to that the Midwest Bitcoin Summit by using your code Cholo?
Yeah, Chano. It's well, you get 21% off, and then roughly speaking, 10% of what's left then goes to fund, the pool to do all this. So yeah, please use the discount code CHODL if you haven't already done it, and proceeds are going to fund so that we can kick back and give everybody, Bitcoin to actually spend with the merchants there. So there's at present, we definitely have two treasure hunts happening. It looks like one's going to be at lunch on the first day, as well as then we're going to go up into North High Street, which is north of the conference center, and we're going to try to. That's a little different animal, but we're going to try to seed those businesses ahead of time. So ideally, anybody that goes to the treasure hunt or has set up ahead of time to spend Bitcoin at the merchants in Columbus, we're trying to work that up into the second. And it's going to be a first come first serve thing, which with I think 30 slots per session that will be. But I'm signing up my partner, Tiffany, because I don't think Natalie can make it for personal reasons. We'll see, but like I'm sure she'll be there with me, and I've got you on that. It's going to be amazing. What we're hoping to accomplish is to show not just the participants how this works and to get it to be a part of their ethos, but to really help anybody that's part of a meetup. So anybody that's going to Midwest Bitcoin Summit who is the leader of a meetup, let's call it Scottsdale or let's call it Jersey City or let's call it Portland, whichever the leaders of those meetups are, absolutely encourage you to join us so you can see this methodology, which has been just remarkably successful. So to me, this is an opportunity to amplify a very different approach to orange pilling businesses. And then, the great part is because they create both sides, the demand and the merchant, it's like it keeps running. And you don't want to set somebody up to spend Bitcoin once. Oh, great, we turned it on and we never got a Bitcoin transaction again. The ideal is whenever you're going to get a coffee, you use the Lightning rails, right? And there's obviously benefits to the business as well as to Bitcoiners, and it's just a great way to actively opt out. And I think let's use G Money's term. This is a second way to opt out of the system, and in some ways a much less difficult one to stomach for those of us that are have obligations or such.
All right, so 21% off
Correct.
for the Midwest Bitcoin Summit versus off the regular price. All right, so I wonder if that's why Satoshi. I mean, the supply of Bitcoin really doesn't matter. It's what's important is that it's knowable and it's transparent. We know the exact monetary schedule, but maybe he didn't pick 42 million Bitcoin or 50 million Bitcoin because that would be such a huge discount. Everyone would be like, "Oh, it's 42% off. It's 50% off." So he was kind of smart when he picked 21. He was like, "Yeah, that's significant, but it's not too much." Let's say hello to Anon, and then we'll say hello to everybody else.
Good morning. Anyone catch the FOMC meeting yesterday? Props to the bears that said the Fed would not cut. Rates remain unchanged, signaling higher rates ahead in the year. So the bears called it.
Yeah, I think that was sort of obvious with how hot inflation has been lately. If I were him, I mean, no one would want that job. The job is terrible. There's no way to win. If you come in and you immediately cut rates, you just look like you're a puppet for Trump because we all know that's exactly what he wanted, but it makes no sense. Also, it's not just up to him. People forget there's a whole board of people that are voting. So um, he's mostly dictating where the vote goes. Unless I'm wrong, someone can correct me.
No,
Let's say hello to Asteroid. Asteroid, I always invite you up here, but you rarely make it.
Oh, what's going on? Well, sometimes I don't see it. So, no, all good with me. Well, as good as I can be. I know you saw the new bullshit law that was signed into a law in my state. So,
Oh yeah, that's
um,
right. You're over there in Chicago. Well, you know
yeah, I
what?
think,
It's you're
I,
helping out your state. For every $10,000 of Bitcoin you want to move, you give them $2. It's not that bad.
$2. Well,
Yeah,
here's the
it's
comp.
0.2%, which is 0.002.
No, but I think there's more to it though. If you read it's if you have it custodied, which I don't, but who knows if they're going to consider CASA or unchanged custody? You know
Well,
what I
what
mean?
I'm
Since
going to do is I'm going to
do you
create a
know?
12-word wallet. I'm going to first of all, I have to move to Chicago. Then I'm going to create a 12-word wallet. I'm going to move it to that wallet and pay $2, $10,000 worth. Then I'm going to move it to another wallet and pay another $2, and then another wallet and move it $2. Consolidate my UTXOs and pay another $2. I mean, it'll be fun. For $10, I can have 5 transactions. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So I might have to leave Unchained or Casa. You know, I use both of them. So
No, you don't need to leave anything.
you don't. It said custodians will be taxed 0.2%,
So,
but
uh,
I don't know if
so
that's a custodian, right? Is
Here,
it? Is
yeah,
it?
Unchained will argue. I know Unchained quite well, and as well as a lot of these other collaborative security models will argue that they are not. They do not hold any of your Bitcoin.
So,
They
so you think it's fine?
they hold a backup key
Yeah,
of
I know.
yours. So
Yep.
right, they don't hold your
I know
house.
how it
They have a
works. I'm just the
backup
government's
key under a
retarded. So
rock.
you know.
Yeah.
But the problem is the government. I don't think they understand. You know, like I don't think.
Wait. They don't understand, but they're the government. They're super smart. How else
I'm
did they
just
get
not
there?
sure if like the average government person who signed this into law would understand
No, they wear
what's
suits and they talk fancy. They're in that big building.
like
What are you
if you
talking
the
about?
average person if you say like multi-sig and you explain like no they can't move it or nobody gets it,
That's why
man.
you don't ever say multi-sig. You say multiple signature.
I
It's
don't
like
know.
saying, let's go to CVS and get some face lotion. No, you say consumer value store. You have to spell things out, Asteroid.
I mean, luckily I don't move much, you know, like it just sits there. So it's just,
Well, I
yeah,
think you better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's say hello to the other people here.
All
Let
right.
let's say hello to G Money and then Thomas.
Shade delay, my friends. It sounds like knives are out for Sailor again because of STRC. That's okay, right? Ye of little faith. The shorts are building up. The Zionists got totally wrecked on the Iran deal. By the way, I called that one too. So I think they're a little pissed off, right? A little angry because Trumpy Bear pulled the old rug on them. We're gonna make Iran great again. We're gonna make them we're going to free them of the control structure that they were, under the thumb of. But yeah, look, I think earlier when you talked about the numbers, Bitcoin has vortex math involved, guys. So if you know the magic of 369, right? That was put into the code because there is special powers behind repeating number sequences, especially 369 in the ether, and that's why the halving schedule, right? Every 210,000 blocks, two plus one is three. Then it goes to 420, which is six. Then 630, which is nine. And so that's just a repeating number sequence within Bitcoin. And if you look deeper, the prime numbers and stuff, anyways, it's a whole different conversation. Just wanted to say good morning to y'all and to be optimistic and to remain calm. The president is under full control. The Federal Reserve is under full control. Kevin Warsh and Scott Bessent are cooking, baby. They're cooking. Let them cook. All right? Remain calm. All is well. Love you guys.
Is
I'm
that
not sure what G Money's
369?
on today, but what's that, Anon?
I was wondering, is that like get low 369? Damn you fine.
Oh, don't get him started. Let's say hello to Thomas. Thomas just DM'd me. He said they're changing the name of Stretch to Compress. Hey, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean that's watching a train wreck in real time here. It's a complete train wreck. I mean, we're sitting at 83.22. It's crazy. Uh, uh, I never thought that it would go this low because I just thought people would at some point, say, hey, the effective yield is too high. But now I think people are questioning whether that yield will actually ever get paid through any reasonable length of time. I don't know how else to interpret it, right? I mean, why wouldn't people take a 13-14% yield, which is basically what it is now? The reason they wouldn't is because they don't think they're going to get it. And anyway,
You mean
we'll
they
see.
don't think they'd get their principal back? So who cares about the $50
No,
or
well, there's
whatever?
no obligation to pay the dividend. I mean, they put that in the.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right. They just have to reduce that to get the share price back up.
No, they can do anything. They can. I mean, it would be, I think, crazy that they wouldn't pay it. But the paperwork says they could choose not to. They put that in the paperwork, so there was a deliberation as to should they do that or not. But I just think, like, I don't own Stretch. I observe it because it affects broadly Bitcoin sentiment on Main Street. And this is a train wreck that is damaging the perception of Bitcoin as a viable asset to people who are not in Bitcoin. So while again it doesn't change what I think about it for 2030, it changes it quite a bit for 2026.
It looks like it's bringing down the other digital credit instruments like SATA. SATA's now down to 93.
So look, I've never thought, look, if Saylor was not buying all this Bitcoin, and then there's people out there who say the price would be much lower. It'd be 25,000 or 30,000 or 10,000, just some lower number. If that's the case, then I think people should really reconsider Bitcoin as an asset. I mean, if the only reason it's up and doing well is because one company and one man is decided to be very aggressive and very creative to buy it, then I think it's not the asset class that we thought it was. I believe that the decentralized asset that it is should be owned in a decentralized way, meaning the broadest possible adoption, the deepest possible adoption within that breadth of adoption, and not concentrated. I think concentrated ownership, whether it be BlackRock or MSTR, while it may prop up the short-term price, I think it's long-term not ideal. Now, if something else is going on, like some magic strategic Bitcoin reserve, and a wink and a nod that MSTR is going to become the national strategic reserve, then I'll be the first to say, hey, we were in the dark, I didn't know. I just think that's like a lottery ticket. I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that.
Chottle.
Yeah, if your Sailor obviously made a couple missteps here in the recent past, but he really does have a lot of weaponry that he should deploy, and in my opinion, Bitcoin would skyrocket, as would Stretch, if he just literally hired Josh Mandel to run the options book, and he should be writing, in my opinion, call options on his position for a part of it. So this dividend, the point is he's got so many different tools that we don't have. I don't land where Asteroid was landing yesterday, that this is necessarily game over. I just think that his tool set is far broader than what we have. Yes, sir. How are you, buddy?
Hey, but I've said the same thing. I was like, it's only over if he doesn't pivot to something. I was like, there is tons of ways he could make money, right? Like writing puts, writing calls, market making, trading desks, just trading straight longs, right? And I know he doesn't want to do that stuff, but it's like there needs to be some sort of cash generated mechanism to support the dividend. I said,
sorry,
I've been saying
I
from
didn't catch that part of it. I total agreement. Yep.
That post that
or loaning it out, right? You could loan it. There's so many different things. He needs to start now. Like he's running out of time. I don't get it. I don't know why there's not more action.
They posted from the official account strategy that they would burn their furniture to pay the dividend. That is a Ponzi scheme. Now, was it a joke? It didn't look like a joke to me. They said they had 32 years of assets that they could burn to pay for the dividend. That is the most ridiculous thing. That is an admission of failure, on an official account. They're basically saying we cannot satisfy this, and we can burn the furniture to pay the dividend. And if you are an investor and you're sitting on the sidelines and deciding whether you want that's a toxic thing. You don't want to be anywhere near that because it looks like a Ponzi scheme. Whether it is or it isn't is irrelevant. It looks like it.
Who's in charge of marketing at MSTR? Because it's been getting increasingly odd, I would say, for the past 3 months. Like the AI videos, the mixed messaging, it's a little strange. And I'm a big fan of Saylor. I learned a ton from him over the years, but It feels like something switched about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Well, while we think about that, let's say hello to the ladies, Tiffany, Natalie, and Jordan, all three ladies. Let's start with you, Tiffany.
Hi, guys. Good morning. Yeah, no, just happy to be up here and, talking about sound money thinking and sovereignty values and all the things. So, off to a good start. Last night we had a great space too, talking about how to lead the next generation here and just that kind of whole mindset. So it was great. We're going to do another one next week, and yeah, just a lot of great minds in the space. So I appreciate everybody who came out last night.
Let's go to Tiffany's backup account.
Yes, Tiffany has two accounts. Good morning. Last night was great, as Tiffany said, just echoing that. I think I might move to Buena Vista, Colorado. It's like the new Bitcoin jungle of the United States, and just seems really cool. And the family that we had up was just absolutely incredible. And congrats, Chad, on getting Andrew to go on board with this family because they are super. The stretch commentary is making me a little nervous, but thanks for all your input, Thomas. And I'm going to go read and see what they post today or what Sailor has on stretch because I actually own some stretch and I don't want it to compress. So we will see. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Terrence.
Well, you'll be stretched soon when that baby comes out.
Yep,
Jordan,
I
how
am
about you?
stretching.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. If you guys, I don't want to derail the conversation at all, but if you guys paid attention, we learned two very important things today from Terrence. Why Satoshi picked 21 Bitcoins. I think that's um, a, a great conclusion on why he did that. And then CVS, who knew? Consumer Value Store. I never knew that before. So, great conversation. I'm really excited to see what happens with Stretch. I think when I got into Bitcoin, the guy, I'm not going to dox him, but he had been in a few cycles and he had obviously bought, sold a lot of Bitcoin and was underwater at some point. And then he had his house, $2 million house paid off and he remortgaged his house, went all into Bitcoin at like on the run up to 60,000 and then watched it come all the way down to 16,000. And so I think, cycle, we all thought cycle, the 4-year cycle is dead. And I think there's some sort of magic behind that. And I think Sailor's just about to find out what this cycle is going to do, whether he has switched to compress or not, or burn all his furniture. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think we all have been through, and most of us have been through enough to kind of understand like this could just, be a rough time. But hold on and see what happens in the next few years, especially the halving coming up in April of 2028.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. Actually, everything's going to be fine. But I don't own anything but Bitcoin, so I do sleep peacefully at night. Like Stretch, like the treasury companies, like anything fancy that comes around, and all the influencers and podcasters are suddenly saying how great they are. I've learned to avoid them because I've gotten burned by the NFTs and by the ICOs, and it's just always something fancy. And every time it's like you feel like, I don't want to miss this train. Everyone's moving into this thing. Everyone's talking about this or that, and anyways, they might be fine, and part of it is just because of where Bitcoin is right now in this sideways and suppressed market. But I know that won't be for long. We all know that. So I am optimistic it'll be fine. But it's just always a good reminder to just stick to Bitcoin only. It just especially if you want peace. Let's say hello to Disco Ball Natalie.
Hi, good morning, Terrence. Good morning, all. I'm feeling really good today. I get to sit up here and just absorb the value you all bring. I want to piggyback on Chad's earlier enthusiasm. And, the only value I think I may return to all of you is simply just some feel good energy. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, still becoming. I think we all are, right? But I just want to say, remember to be kind to one another and just pump up those good vibrations and optimism.
Amen. I sign off on that. So, Anon, Chad, Thomas, G Money, Asteroid, Tiffany, Natalie, Jordan, anyone have any topics or anything that's on their mind or any questions other than why Satoshi picked 21 million, which we can also get into, but that would be
Yeah,
filler.
for 2 seconds, just a quick topic. I have a lot of the Myers-Briggs data, and it's fascinating to me that I really do believe that over the next 8 years, as Bitcoin grows, because as you all know, it to me is absolutely inevitable. But the messaging is going to come from, like Natalie, once you really understand this asset, the messaging that you can provide is very different than the messaging that any of us that are natively in the existing groups can provide, and that function is incredibly important. So don't undersell your ability and time to be a really meaningful contributor. It's great to have you as part of the family, and I look forward to learning alongside of you because I'm still learning as well. Tiffany.
Yeah. So I'm just getting back from Prague and the conference there, and I noticed that really cool that you can buy anything with Bitcoin there at any stand and purchase food with your Bitcoin, and which is awesome. My question here, I don't know if Adam's in the room from Mana Wallet, is I was trying to use my Mana Wallet to pay for, and I hope the room is just like kind with me here because I have many wallets and I use them and I've been transacting, and Satoshi Genesis of we need to use it and spend our Bitcoin, right? So I tried to use my Mana Wallet and it didn't work. And Wallet of Satoshi was working. So I'm not sure if that's like a United States centric wallet or if I was doing something wrong. But if somebody can help me with that question, is it United States only or what's happening?
No, it shouldn't be United States only. I'm wondering if there's maybe a liquidity issue where locally you couldn't find another relay that would, have your transaction go through. But let's see if we can find out. Let's see if we can invite it.
Yeah, and Tiffany, were you on Man? I don't have it open right now, but did you have liquid selected? Because sometimes people will accidentally do this with Aqua or other wallets because a lot of these wallets have liquid, Lightning, and Bitcoin. The three different ones, and if they're on liquid, they get confused and they're trying to pay a Lightning invoice. I'm not saying that that's what you were doing, but it's possible.
I'm just going to stay off or on mic while I pull up my Mana wallet so I can still have you guys up. But I do not know what I had on. And I'm pretty sure all I did, if you go to your Mana wallets, was they have a QR code option when you approach like the coffee stand and they ask you, do you want to pay in euros or do you want to pay in crowns or whatever they have there and Bitcoin. And I said Bitcoin. And I pressed, they pull up the thing and I press send. And then I pull up my scan QR code and then I just went right to it and it pulls up
So
the
were you
QR
on
code.
chain then? You might have been on chain if you
Okay.
said you selected Bitcoin, which you wouldn't want to be. You can't send Bitcoin to a Lightning QR code.
Yeah, I guess I just need to
Like
like learn how to
all
navigate the
three are
system.
different. So you just have to, yeah, and you can usually tell the Lightning will have an LL1 in front of it. The Bitcoin will have a B or a 3 or depending on what they're using.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I'll
anyways,
I'll play around with it. Thanks for the help.
okay.
Hey, Terrence, I'd like to point out that I yesterday launched a new fundraising thing for Keone and the Samurai Wallet guys. And so I know some of you guys don't like tokens, but I did launch a free Samurai token on the Bitcoin Layer 2 network using op return. So these aren't inscriptions, these aren't ordinals, these are using op return like Samurai Wallet had to use. Samurai Wallet actually used the op return to provide the security to allow the anonymity, right, in the transactions. Lightning uses op return. And so if people are interested in learning how this ecosystem works, because this is kind of like a GoFundMe. This is kind of like a immutable GoFundMe, bro, to where people that want to donate, right, would have like a receipt. Like you literally have like a receipt of what that looks like. And so if people want to play around with it, it's a free open source wallet. That's a Bitcoin wallet. that also will also show you the tokens that would also be part of your wallet as well. So if anybody's interested, I'm going to put it in the nest. It's super easy. It's not hard. But if you have questions, you can feel free to DM me, and you get a cool little Pepe meme. That's basically supporting Keone. Every single purchase will be donated to Keone's fund. I've spoken to his wife about this, and she was fully on board with allowing me to do this. It was with her blessing. So the artist even donated his time to create the artwork for it. And so if you guys would like to buy the token, it's like $15, I think, or something. So anyways, I put it in the nest. If you guys have questions, feel free to DM me. But just wanted to point that out today. Thanks.
I don't know if you noticed, Terrence, but Adam is in the room, and Tiffany had some questions there, so I can't seem to bring him up. If we got to bump somebody down, would love to give Adam a chance to respond to what was happening.
No, there's room for Adam if he's available. I'll pull him up. Um, yeah, that's great. Hey, chasing inquiry, see your hand up, and thanks, G Money.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I thanks for having me up first off. I was just gonna echo also at Bitcoin Prague, I had the same problem with Mana. I tried to buy the sparkling water over at the taps vendor, and we tried a few times and it just wasn't working. So he ended up just taking a picture of the Mana wallet and just going, oh, okay, we're just gonna have to tweak it. So it might just be that area. Yeah, I can drop down if you guys need more space, but I just wanted to echo that.
No worries. Stay there for a second because we have Adam here.
You'll
Adam.
have to. I didn't catch really any of that, so
So both. It sounds
going
like
on.
both Tiffany and Chasing Inquiry were trying to buy something in Prague, and they both had issues where it wasn't going through. And I just wondered if they were trying to pay with Bitcoin on chain or they were on Liquid rather than Lightning. But maybe Mana just switches automatically. I have no idea.
Yeah, Mana does switch automatically. Tiffany, is this related to what we'd been talking about, or is this different? I think we was talking to Tiffany, or was this Natalie? I was talking to one of you guys offline.
Yeah,
They're the
it's
same
me.
person.
I'm so sorry, Adam, that I'm asking you more questions, but yes,
No,
it's not
this is
related.
questions are great. Okay, so this
Not
is separate.
related at all. Yes, separate. And I really was excited to use the Mana wallet, and yeah, I went, and they, like I said earlier, I don't know when you popped in the room, but you show up at the coffee stand. It asks if you want, crowns or Bitcoin, euros, whatever you want to pay in. And I say Bitcoin, and they pull up the QR code, and then you pull up your wallet, and you click on send, and because you're sending, and then it pulls up the scan function. You click scan, and then it shows the QR code, and you scan it, and it just popped up, and it was like not, whatever it says, not applicable or whatever. And I just couldn't pay with, and I didn't know if I could switch. I can't see where you switch right now on to Mana. So if there's I'm
Yeah,
in.
it's all automatic. So you don't need to do any of that. It should happen automatically. So there was something technically wrong when you went to
Okay.
go make that payment. I don't have enough information to tell you what that is, or if it was on the Mana side or on their side. There are a lot of reasons why a payment wouldn't go through.
Okay.
Um, I mean, going back to what we were talking about with the invoice issue that we had, for example, if somebody creates an invoice and the invoice expires, that would be one reason why payment wouldn't go through. Another reason would be is if the receiving party doesn't have inbound liquidity, and these are all issues that are, I think, most people, or at least a lot of people building in Lightning, recognize, and that's one of the main reasons why we built Mana. Now, obviously, we can't solve other people's problems for them, but as more people build on tools that reduce the complexity, I think the better this whole ecosystem will be. And again, I can't say if it was on the other side or on Mana right now, just because I don't know, where the problem lies. But we can definitely look into that. And if you want, Tiffany, we can follow up offline, and I can get some information from those transactions from you. Transactional data isn't shared with Mana. It is stored in your phone though, so I can get some of that from you, and we can do an investigation to figure out exactly what the cause was, just like with the invoicing issue. And I
Thanks,
can at least
Adam.
the problem's on our side or not.
Yeah. Let's put a pin in that because we have no idea what that was, and you guys can solve that. Let's say hello to Gary. Fred, I also invited you up. I want to see what is on your minds today, and AC is up here as well.
Good
Gary,
morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Thursday. How's everyone doing?
did you stretch your way into the space?
I barely have any stretch to get stretched into this place. I'm being de-stretched.
You've been compressed, Gary.
Yes, I am. Impressed. Funny though, I met with my bankers yesterday and they don't care. It's a yield-bearing product with collateral behind it. I don't know why everybody's getting their pants in a twist. But boy, it's putting some headwind onto Bitcoin for sure. Uh, Funny old market, right? Funny old market. Maybe none of the companies that have participated in Bitcoin will make it. I have a hard time believing that, but maybe.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone should just buy Bitcoin.
You know what? I'm starting to think that maybe just everybody should just buy Bitcoin and, you know, fiat's going to fail. So should be a good trade. I think one of the things that I'm surprised by is some of the more prominent names in the Bitcoin community are talking about, 2 and 3 and 4 years from now. Heard a lot of that this morning and last night from the guys that do the Fox News and the Novograts of the world. So that's quite interesting that we got guys kind of moving out their time horizon for Bitcoin being the great store of value that it's supposed to be. So we'll see, but it's an awful lot of negative news, or at least negative. What was the term used the other night? Bitcoin is a sentimental market, so maybe that's what we just got some sentimentalness in it, and we got to get through it. So I'm sure there's other people here that know a lot more than me, though. I've never invested in a sentimental market before, so this may be my first experience. I'm probably a novice at it and have a lot to learn. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it.
What does that mean, sentimental market?
Yeah, I heard it for the first time a couple nights ago. So I think it means that it's emotional. That's
Yeah,
the
that
way
it's
I heard it.
shifting off of narratives that
Yeah,
really have no fundamentals whatsoever or understand
yeah.
math.
Yeah, and this came from people who've been around, 13, 12, 10 years, have very, very cheap Bitcoin. So I think I have to realign my navigation, my GPS, understanding this is a sentimental market, not a fundamental one. So one day the fundamentals should take hold. I just don't think it's going to be this weekend.
I mean, the reality is most people in Bitcoin or even other markets who are traders, they do trade off of narratives and emotion. And so, they're not necessarily thinking for themselves or really analyzing or looking at what the properties are. There's obviously in Bitcoin a few of us, but like even the Bitcoiners on X, even though it seems like we're all here, like what small percentage of Bitcoiners are we? Of all of the people that are buying Bitcoin, especially when you look at the institutions and the companies and the pensions and all of the passive fund investors. Um, and so they could be moving around with narratives, click, sell, buy, whatever. So I think over time that's obviously going to change. But what's your thoughts, Fred, for the day?
My thoughts is we better get a statement from Saylor today, other than crickets, right? Where he aggressively touted STRC as a money market alternative, right? And it's done a complete depeg at this point. I mean, this is not a small depeg, and I feel like he needs to come in today. Every day he waits is going to be bad, right? So I think if he does nothing today, if you don't see a statement out of him, that's not good. And I feel like there's going to be permanent damage done to this STRC story, right? I mean, if this thing goes on a week and then sort of recovers, I mean, people are just going to look for the exits. If they get anywhere close to par, and they're not, there will be no demand for this product going forward. So, I do think the product itself has some problems. I do, but I think he needs to come in and sort of say, we expect to increase it meaningfully, in the 14% range or something. I don't know what the range is, but he needs to
Fred,
convince
let's say he
people.
does that. I thought
Yeah.
this through a little bit. Let's say he does that. He raises it to 14. Doesn't he have to then raise it to 15 the following week? And I mean, when does it stop?
Yeah. So he does need to say, look, what the world doesn't want to hear is we're considering pausing the dividend, right? That would not be good. They don't want to hear, nothing, because that means we don't have a game plan. So they want to sort of say, listen, we have a game plan. We're going to increase it. We're going to make a meaningful increase this week, and we will continue to make meaningful increases to get the price back to par. That's what we sold. That's what we're going to deliver, and we're confident that we can maintain this thing. Now, I think if he did that, I do think it'll go a long way to restoring the peg. If he doesn't do that right now, if we just are in limbo until the next board meeting for this peg, which I think is in about 2 weeks, I think 2 weeks is going to be a lot of time to sit around here at 85 or lower. And I think it'll do a lot of damage to.
Fred, if they were to announce a launch of an operating model that did not imply burning the furniture, selling the Bitcoin, but an operating model around the whole Bitcoin treasury, we all discussed the potential things that they could do around trading desk, et cetera. If they said, hey, we're going to create an operating model that's going to generate enough cash flow to fund all the dividends, then they would have a sustainable and viable cash flow thesis. But right now, people are looking at and saying, wait a second, the only way I'm going to pay this down is I'm going to float more to pay down the existing bondholders, or I'm going to sell the furniture or burn it. And so, and that does not instill any confidence. And
it really doesn't instill confidence. And look, he had 70 years worth of dividend payments. Now he has 30 some years of dividend payments. You know what I mean? If the dividend goes up, he'll have even less years of dividend payments. It's not a great look. And I think, it may not be a sustainable product, this STRC in particular. The other ones, I would say, they have a fixed coupon. The coupon doesn't increase. If the value goes down, well, the value goes down, I think the problem here is this STRC, is a little bit of a weapon of mass destruction. It has a coupon that can go to infinity, essentially, right? And the question is, what happens to STRC when the coupon is reset? As Gary suggests, to 15 or 17.
But what is their source of fresh capital? If
it's going to be either selling. It's going to be either selling shares, selling Bitcoin, or selling more.
More stretch.
More stretch. Those are the three things you can sell.
If those are the three things, then I say fail, fail, fail. Right? If you
they're not going to come up with an imaginary new operating business in the next 2 weeks. That's not going to happen, right? So
if those are the only three options, then MSTR is a hard sell at this point, because it has no future, right?
Look, here I'll tell you a future that wouldn't be necessarily great, right? But is they put a bunch of Bitcoin in a vault. They issue some new security that is hard backed by Bitcoin against that thing, not stretched. And then with that new security, they buy back the stretch. For example, it has. Look, they've got 800,000 Bitcoin. It's not a hard sell at 800,000 Bitcoin. Now Should it trade at a discount to NAV with all these problems? Probably, right? So I think, I don't want to be negative because I don't want to. I do think that he can navigate around this, but I mean, all this started with a bunch of brain dead ideas. This is a self-inflicted problem, right? They didn't have to sell the 32 Bitcoin. They didn't have to retire those bonds so aggressively, and they didn't have to use the cash on hand. They had a year and a half of cash, and they brought it down to 6 months. All these things were not needed, and it was, it's very arrogant of this company to kind of sort of say we're just going to do this and we don't care, and the market is the market. Well, now they're, there's the graph. Fuck around, find out, and we're finding out. So
So, Fred, if we think back over the last couple of weeks, was it simply a timing issue and communication issue that Saylor chose the wrong time to start selling and tinkering with things? Or do you think that there's fundamentally something wrong with Stretch that could have never worked?
I do think that there's something kind of wrong with Stretch. And here's the problem with what I think is wrong with Stretch. I think that ultimately what you're telling people is, I'm going to pay you, 10%, and I will offer you the right to buy your stuff back, right? If you want to, it's sort of like a money back guarantee, right? It's sort of like, you can earn this 10%, and if you need your money, you can sell your money, and money back guarantee, it's going to trade at par. And I'm going to guarantee you that by increasing the rate. Well, that money back guarantee got a lot of people. I think there's a fair amount of people who leveraged up. You know what I mean? They borrowed at 5% to make 10%.
Yeah, I did.
I do think there's what?
Yeah, I did that myself for a few months there.
Right. So I think you're not alone, right? I think there's a bunch of people who said, this thing is even better if I leverage, right? I instead of making 10%, I can make 20%, right? So I think that I think these things are fundamentally unstable, and I do think there's been various types. There's never been exactly this in the past, but there's been various things kind of like this, and Merrill Lynch had these auction rate preferred securities back in 2008 that did not go well. There's a big lawsuit on that, and Terra Luna is, while different, has some elements of the same thing. It was back, famously backed by 10 billion in Bitcoin at one point, right? Or was going to be backed by that. So, I just feel like the idea of taking Bitcoin in and converting it into, via alchemy into something that yields, absolutely 10% stable. That's sort of like the quest for the philosopher's stone in the Middle Ages. Didn't end up too well for the alchemists.
I feel a little bad for a lot of people want to work in Bitcoin and work for Bitcoin companies and build, and especially a lot of the younger, some of the Gen Zers that have been coming out of college. And I don't want to name names, but we know who some of these people are, and they immediately got gobbled up by some of these companies. And suddenly you see these people that are like, wow, I found Bitcoin, and they're highlighting all of the properties and the fundamentals of Bitcoin, which is fantastic. Like, oh wow, you're so young and you already get Bitcoin. And then next thing you know, they're making all kinds of videos about Stretch and SATA, and this is what we need. At our age, we need cash flow, we need income, and it's like not only is it just an inferior product to just holding Bitcoin, where Bitcoin is the money. There's just events and situations like what's happening now, and maybe it recovers, but maybe it doesn't, that we see. And just like I was talking a little bit earlier, whether it's been the ICOs or the NFTs or the treasury companies, and and even the older crowd and the people that have been here for a while. Like I had a lot of friends and colleagues at Swan and Unchained and other places that got swallowed up by some of these companies, and I feel bad for some of them. They're really good people, but they chased at the time a high paycheck, and now it's like their brand or whatever has been highly tarnished. So I still love Sailor. I love what he's doing. I've always been skeptical of these products, but I'm always just skeptical of things I don't understand. Some of it's just I'm not smart enough to know what they are. But sometimes I'm like, ah, man, am I missing the boat on something here? And then times like now, I'm like, ah, thank goodness. I feel so good just being with Bitcoin. But I don't know what you guys think. What's next? Is there going to be some Bitcoin AI thing? Is it, like I feel like there's always going to be something. Part of it is just that we're restless. We're always looking to get fancy, even though we know we shouldn't. It's hard not to. Um, so I don't know.
I
That's why I
do feel
appreciate.
like this is this is a seminal thing, right? I mean, the idea of taking Bitcoin's CAGR and turning it into a stable currency. It's been tried so many times before. I mean that you can go ahead and watch video after video. People like Arthur Hayes talking about it. You know what I mean? Ethena. I can't even remember how it works, but it has perps against it. These things always kind of blow up. You know what I mean? They don't ever quite work. And that's kind of my take.
Yeah, and we
So
talked a little bit about this yesterday, Fred. I don't know if you remember, you were there, but it's always like, how do you get cash flow on Bitcoin? How do you get yield on Bitcoin? And the reality is you just have to create a fiat product. There is no such thing. Like Bitcoin does not create baby Bitcoins.
and it doesn't need to, right?
That's
But
right.
it doesn't need to. And look, I think you can borrow against your Bitcoin. That's okay. As long as you keep the ratios really low, you can borrow against your Bitcoin. Not a problem. That's the problem is when you try to do too much, I think.
I saw someone on X, I forget who, but they were surmising that what's happening right now with Stretch and SETA is an unwind of everybody who took leverage on Robinhood. Because that was a strong narrative for a while. Hey, what's wrong with you Bitcoiners? Why don't you just borrow? You can borrow on Robinhood for 5%, and get margin rates 4 to 5%, and be collecting 11.5 on Stretch or 13 on SETA. You guys are just missing the boat. And now a lot of those people, based on what's happening today, are getting completely wrecked. I mean, I don't know if SETA's down because of the sentimental value we were talking about, but they don't have any debt. They look like they were in great position, and now they're down to whatever 93 or something.
I
Anyways, I
think
don't know.
there's look. There's people think that there's going to be, or it's possible to hack the system. There are too many people in the system, too many smart people, too many moneyed interests for a hack to work more than a few minutes. And this idea that we just go back to the Misty when things were going crazy on MSTR. Everyone was saying, "Oh, I'm going to just buy Misty, and the cash flows are going to pay for my investment, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to retire on that." Well, I think, got absolutely wrecked on that.
Yeah, they've left the space. They're not even on X anymore.
Yeah, I mean, because it's embarrassing if you lose 60 or 70% of your net worth because you bet on what you thought was a hack. The whole adage that our grandparents taught us, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I think that's the case here. Now, the math behind borrowing money at a low APR relative to the CAGR, I think is sound, so long as the LTV is low, because the CAGR is not flat. It is not 35%. It is negative 40%, 170%, 22%. It's all over the place. So if you can't ride that dip, and we're in a dip right now, the dip sucks. We're down 50% from the high. So if you push that capitalization on that rule, you're going to get nailed. But if you kept your LTVs at 20% or lower, or even 25% or lower, all you need to do is maintain your conviction, and you're okay. But too many people, these loan products, if you look at them, they'll take you up to 65 and 70. Well, they've already been liquidated. And people like on Robinhood who are saying, well, I'm going to arbitrage stretch or SATA for the coupon, and I'm just going to borrow on the margin. That's you're getting liquidated. And if you're cross collateralized in your account, you're going to have all your other positions liquidated. And look, it's a real shame. I just think we're in a bad spot right now, and this has to clear out before I think we go higher.
So fun.
I just wanted to make a comment that there's shares available to short. So I think there are players out there that know the predicament. That's
Poised. Did you want to jump in?
sorry. I was trying to. I didn't unmute myself. Can I? My point was people are shorting STRC and MicroStrategy, and they're going to push it lower. And by doing that, they'll create a snowball effect for the people who were you just talking about it, Tom, who are on leverage and long. Those are going to be the first liquidated. I don't see a solution for Sailor to unwind this problem. He doesn't have a whole lot of tools that he can employ with Bitcoin going down to stop this bleeding. So my fear is that if this continue at this rate, in a few days we could see a major crash of CRC. Go into the 60s, the 50s, who knows? And then we'll see what happens. What Sailor does, what he says. At some point he should already be doing some sort of a statement or saying something. Some sort of guarantee. I don't know. It's his deal, but doesn't show a whole lot of confidence when you have an asset that's supposed to be at 100 crashing, at this rate. So
When
I just
STRC,
think it will
yeah,
snowball.
when STRC is at 95, you could ascertain that it's a desire by the market to get a higher yield than 11.5 for the product. When we're down at 85 and dropping, and if it goes lower, it's not the market saying we want a higher yield. It's the market saying we question the product, we question the return of capital, we question the dividend stream. So it's not a yield question. It's a counterparty risk question.
Exactly.
And so when you have a vote of no confidence on the counterparty, and that counterparty is MicroStrategy, that's not good for Bitcoin, in my opinion. Not in the short term, anyway.
Well, I think what that generates is an interest of short sellers to pile on it, and we know what happens. They can drive, companies to zero, because of the snowball effect. They force the price down, that liquidates more people who have to sell at any price. They increase their shorts. They're going to continue this movement until something happens. And I only see two solutions here. Either strategy comes out with something that the market is not expecting, and they do something that to stop the bleeding, or Bitcoin has a move higher. If if either of those don't happen, why would it change the dynamic?
So, Fawn, I've got a question for you. So, I'm going to take this back to what Fred was alluding to and just referencing, and I think it's worth reminding everyone. They have 800,000 Bitcoin. So, my question for you is, is my question to everybody is, does anybody actually believe that they would renege or not follow through on being able to make their payments, especially with STRC? With 800,000 Bitcoin, let's just assume the worst case scenario and they have to start scraping some of that off to make their payments. If that does happen, they still have 800,000 Bitcoin. Does anybody actually believe that that's going to drive the price of Bitcoin of a $1.28 trillion asset down to a level in which they
Yeah,
can't sustain their obligation?
yes, it will continue to do it, because what he should have done, the moment that the stress happened, instead of selling 32 Bitcoin, he should have sold 10,000 Bitcoin and say, hey, we sold this, we're not comfortable with whatever they statement. I'm not going to do the statement for him, but they haven't done anything. So the moment, maybe when he has to sell Bitcoin, the market is already at 40,000. It's a much bigger loss. So every day that the Bitcoin goes down, that STRC goes down, MSTR goes down, and they don't do anything, it's harder for him to climb out of that. So who knows what he's going to do with 800,000 Bitcoin if they go bankrupt or whatever, if there are lawsuits. I mean, you name it. Could it be a million things against them? When a company is starting to go down and the short sellers smell blood in the water, for sure, they leverage their position. And he's not so big that he can withstand a bunch of Wall Street old cats that's done this with many, many companies. They leverage on options, they leverage on derivatives, CDS, all sorts of financial instruments betting on the same direction. And then they start the liquidation cycle. I've seen this happen. And, yeah, he has an asset. Many companies that were destroyed had amazing assets, had real estate, had cash flow, had other things. Who knows? I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it looks like it's happening already. you know in my view, when I look at it, I think people are piling in. They know they're going to generate liquidations, and they're going to do it until something happens. And this something happens is either Bitcoin goes up substantially, or a sailor does something that nobody's expecting, and those short sellers are forced to go in and close their positions. Until one of those things happen, I don't see a way out of this. People are making money every day shorting strategy and CRC.
Something I wanted to
How do you capture a very dangerous animal? And I think that's what like we need to kind of realize too is that this is a war, and strategy is a military implementation of this, in my opinion. And it's kind of like asking Trump, like, hey, what are you going to do, in this war? Like, well, we're not going to tell you the game plan. Why would we tell you the game plan from a very, technical, strategic war plan? And this is what this is about. And so, for the other side of that, which you just said, like, we don't know what Sailor's going to do. And so, let's not count Sailor out, guys. Let's not totally,
Yeah, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not counting him out. He has an opportunity to do something creative, or have something that will catch the short position and change this dynamic. I'm not saying he can't do that, but the longer it takes him to do that, the harder will be for that solution to have any effect. You know what I'm saying?
and yeah, and let's be honest, right? Like, we have no purview or transparency into the naked short selling market. Like, it's a dark pool of funds. Even back for the Nakamoto stuff, people were paying, I think, upwards of 500% to borrow shares to short that stock. And so they're playing in a make believe fake world with fake money because nobody has any transparency. And that's why I keep talking about the capital markets, is because we don't have a fair functioning capital markets. Like some of the guys up here, you know, and like respect to them, to Fred and Thomas and stuff, but like I think the views they're taking are from, you know, the old world. And that new world is going to have transparency in it, but we don't know what that world looks like because it's still filled with fraud. You know, in the Epstein files, right, it was very obvious that Epstein talked about naked short selling and let the goyim live in the real world. Like that is a real thing. And so if this exposure operation is going to happen, you know, Sailor is part of it. And so when the crash comes on their side, it's going to be probably pretty massive. So I think that's what we're kind of building up to.
Someone was mentioning that when you're
Money,
shorting,
you have two in your thesis. You have two assumptions. That,
Hey, Thomas, you're breaking up.
I'm just saying what G Money is saying. Look, that there is a grand plan. I accept that as a possibility, but you have to assume that, and not everybody does, and it's not a sure thing. I mean, you can say it like it's a sure thing, but it might not be. And then the second thing is, if it is true that there's some grand plan, you then have to further assume that that strategy is part of it, and it might not be. There could be a grand plan, and strategy has nothing to do with it. So you have to jump to two different things. You have to say there is a grand plan and strategy is part of it. And I accept that those two conjunctive things could be true, but I would say it's a very low probability. In capital markets, people who are sitting on the $7 trillion in money markets, for the most part, they're going to say, I'm not buying that ticket.
Well, I would say we have some pretty big pillars of truth and foundation that do support the thesis. And A is Trump coming on big time with Bitcoin and crypto, which he doesn't have to do, which is politically not convenient for him, being down 50%, and he's still pushing it. The other thing we have to look at is that Saylor is former naval MIT. Okay, he's known the Trumps for 20 years, and that they have a very good relationship. And so, you know, wink, wink, nod, nod. Uh, they're not going to be, you know, upfront about it. If it is truly happening in the background, they're not going to just tell everybody. Um, and you have Saylor here who has basically taken this asset and fully now integrated it into our financial system, right? He's changed the accounting rules. Like these are massive, massive pillars of movement and foundation that would not have been possible, right? This is something that nobody else could have done. And I think the calculations and the moves that strategy are making are beyond, you know, a lot of our comprehension, just because those are the terms I think that's happening in the background. But Thomas is right. I could be wrong, and my tinfoil hat could have melted my brain.
You know, Donald Trump, the government is not going to save them if shit goes down. They might scoop that Bitcoin for cheap, you know, in a very low probability scenario. They're not going to touch that with a 100-foot pole. They're not going to come in and save Sailor.
I wanted to ask, someone was mentioning that when you're shorting a dividend product, you're responsible for paying the dividend. Does that mean that you're paying that dividend back to the person whose shares you borrowed to sell?
Yes, plus not only that, there's borrowing costs, which I don't know what they are right now for STRC. I could find out, but you pay the dividend plus the borrowing costs. So there is a cost to short it, of course.
And I just want to point out too, that securities lending is what generates 75 to 90% of Wall Street revenue. Okay. And so what that means is the rehypothecation of securities, okay, Dark talks about this a lot, is what creates 75% of Wall Street's revenue. So naked short selling, again, these brokers only have to locate a share. They don't have to actually physically, right, custodial own it. And so that is the problem, is that one person can lend out an equity 20 times over, 30 times over, charge a fee for it, make money on it, but the person shorting it doesn't actually have to own it. So that's a huge problem. And I think that's, again, what people forget about.
I think the one thing we should recognize as Bitcoiners, right, is that Bitcoin does not need instruments like Stretch, right? I really, does Bitcoin need the ETF? Yeah, it does need the ETF. We need some way to buy Bitcoin. We need a wrapper to hold Bitcoin. That I think we need it, right? And I was pretty vocal about that when the ETF came out. I think that was a great idea. The ETF was a great idea. Do we need SATA and Stretch and STRD and STRK and all these other things and Misty and all these things? No, we don't need them. Will Wall Street make them? Yeah, Wall Street makes them. Wall Street is absolutely a factory for manufacturing this kind of stuff, and when I was on Wall Street, that was my day job, was coming up with things like Stretch. So, and by the way, they tanked a lot of people back then too. The Orange County, I think, went bankrupt. One of the things right around then, based on stuff like that we were offering. So these are weapons of mass destruction. These things. And are they useful? Well, securitization is useful. Wrappers are useful. The REIT was a useful invention. The collateralized mortgage obligation was a useful invention. But these complicated versions of these things, they always have unforeseen twists. And they all seem great until some edge case happens, and then they all go completely berserk. So, caveat emptor.
Let's hit Mars and then Mr.
Yeah.
Hoddle.
What's up, guys? I think the dominant bearish narrative that Saylor needs to be concerned about is not whether or not they can fund the dividend. I think people will get comfortable with that, but more importantly, whether or not strategy can defend the peg. Period. Right? Like if the market becomes to realize that strategy cannot defend this $100 peg, then everything changes. Like
Yes,
that's just my
that's
super retarded normie take, but I'm getting Terra Luna vibes here. If you remember,
you're
Terra Luna
absolutely
was an
right.
how do I say that word? Algorithmically defended stable coin that was using open market operations to maintain the $1 peg. And this just feels very similar to that. And so that's my 1 minute comment. That's all I got.
If
Hoddle.
let's say tomorrow he came.
Hey, Sofon. Let's go to Mr. Hoddle. We'll come back to you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I don't know. I don't want to change the subject too much. I just have I found Adam here. He hasn't answered me yet on Twitter, but he said that Bitcoin Core they're not always compatible with older versions. That's not something that they thrive for. That's not something that they strive to be compatible with the network. But he hasn't answered which version hasn't been compatible. He thinks I'm trying to be red herring here or something, but I'm just trying to get an answer from him if he has some knowledge that I don't about a version of Bitcoin Core that's not compatible with the network.
All right, Sofon, back to you.
okay. So when he was, I lost my train of thought a little bit, so I apologize. But what he was saying is true. Let's say tomorrow, Taylor comes in and it's like I'm redeeming back at $100 all the STRC. You will buy directly from you. However he does that. If it's by selling Bitcoin, I don't know what the second order of effects. He would stop this bleeding. I would suspect the majority of STRC holders would want to get out at 100 right now, right? Or at 99, let's say, if that's the offer. We'll guarantee 99. The product would be over, but he would avoid a complete disaster where the whole thing unwinds with no bottom. So something needs to be done. I just don't see a way to go back to that $100 peg without an outside force coming in or Bitcoin going much higher.
Got
I
it,
have a quick
Sofon.
question for the group.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, remember who warned us against financial middlemen. That's kind of something I wanted to throw out there. The second thing I wanted to ask is when it comes to this product, if a bigger company came in and acquired them, could that kind of alleviate some of this? Because really, the longer Saylor waits, the longer chance he has that Bitcoin also goes up. So I think there's two sides to that. He's kind of waiting it out to see if Bitcoin can go up, but could a bigger company with a bigger balance sheet kind of sustain that duration risk of that product? That could be a way out for them. That's kind of a question I have.
All right, I don't know if we have an answer. Mr. Hoddle, do you want to go back to you? I missed your headline.
Adam Simeka, he was saying that Bitcoin Core doesn't basically he's saying that Bitcoin Core doesn't really care that much about backwards compatibility. And I mean, that's a shock to me because I think that's what makes Bitcoin separate from every other cryptocurrency in the space. And I just not sure what he's talking about. He asked Grok to articulate for him, and I think Grok did a pretty good job, and then he stopped talking. So maybe you could answer here.
Out of respect for the host in the space, I'll just ask Terrence, do you want to shift the subject here, or do we want to keep it on topic? What do you want to
do? Okay, never mind. Don't worry about it. That's fine. That's all I needed to hear. You can continue.
If that's what we want to discuss, I'm happy to talk about it. But that's not why I'm here on this space today. But I'm happy to talk about that if that's where we want to go with it. I just want to be.
I mean,
let's pivot.
You made a pretty extraordinary claim there, man. Like that's pretty. Like, saying that Bitcoin Core doesn't prioritize backwards compatibility it's crazy talk.
Not my claim. That was not my claim. That was John Attack, core contributor.
Right, but you linked that you linked what he said, and you couldn't. I asked you specifically what version is not compatible with the network, and you just went silent. You started like spewing Bible verses at me.
This is a pretty esoteric niche thing that you guys can probably take offline. I'm not sure if everyone wants to listen to.
Well, this is Bitcoin. Like, we're talking about the Bitcoin protocol network. Like, everything you're talking about, all of the Saylor stuff, it relies on the Bitcoin network working. Like, this is what it's all about. Like, this is what you guys should be worried about. I understand Saylor part. That's fine. But, like, right now, there's a group of people that are trying to change the way Bitcoin works. And I feel like that's something that everyone should be aware of what's happening, and I don't think many people are.
Again, happy to address, but I'm going to leave it up to the host to decide on.
You don't have to. You guys can continue. I'm sorry. I'll leave.
The only people trying to change the way Bitcoin works are the Bitcoin 10 freaks who don't understand free markets and don't understand immutable information theory. So,
no, I think we do understand free markets. That's why we're exercising our rights in the free market. That's what Bitcoin 10 is.
No, exercising the right in the free market by running a different implementation is fine. Telling people what they can or can't write isn't fine. Like, you're not the government. You have no say in what people can, what software they have the freedom of writing and what they don't, or what they shouldn't be writing. Only thing that you could do is run the implementation that you want to run. But once you start, like Hodlnot's pieces is basically trying to say that Bitcoin Core did all these things against its user base. No, Bitcoin Core has been doing what Bitcoin Core has been doing since the inception of Bitcoin. I mean, like, it's nothing new. And he's trying to make it seem, there's a group of them. It's just not Hodlnot, but there's a group of them that are trying to make it seem that the same people that got Bitcoin to where it is today, and the same people that haven't changed any consensus rules since 2023 are now somehow compromised in 2026. It's insane.
There's absolutely evidence of that. If you read his articles, there's tons of
No, his articles doesn't explain. So policy is something that every implementation has the right to change whenever they want to change it. Whenever the authors of that implementation feel like they should change their policy, they come out with a new version and then they change the policy. You have the ability of ignoring that policy. You don't have to upgrade. Bitcoin is backwards compatible, so like, you don't have to upgrade. You could stay on version 2.8. You could stay on version 2.6. And now with LLMs, you could patch older versions. So one of the concerns is that, you'd want to upgrade because there's vulnerabilities in older versions. But now with likes of ChatGPT and Claude and all these other things, you can patch an older version without being left behind. So that excuse is kind of gone.
No, I'm talking about the governance issues and the corruption behind who's funding which developers and who's dating who and getting them into the
That's
development.
policy. You don't have a say on how they govern
I
themselves.
absolutely have a say, and I'm making it public when I say it, both by running different software and advocating
No,
for.
running different software is no. Running different software is fine. That's perfectly fine. But when you have Ocean's lawyers starting contacting public pools and setting the threshold, at 55%, knowing that there is the only way they're going to get this activated through miners is they could coerce public U.S. pools and miners. That's the only way they could do it. So setting the threshold at 85% obviously wouldn't work. So you would need to lower it to 55, a small majority to basically ram this through. It's an attack. This is the attack on a network. It's one thing to do a UASF, and on fork day, you have a flag day fork. On this day, we will start accepting only these blocks. And if the economic majority feel that's how things should go, then miners will switch and follow along. But
you're coping because you're worried the soft fork might succeed. That's all I'm hearing.
The soft fork's dead on arrival, bro.
Yeah, no, it's all
Like,
for not only. I'm willing to make you a wager if you want. That it will definitely not succeed. If you mean succeed by not having a splank shit like a split chain. Yeah, I don't think it will succeed. I think you will see a split chain. I think the altcoin will be dead on arrival. You won't be able to interact on it, and then eventually you'll just go right back to Bitcoin and continue bitching and moaning.
I
That's what's
can't
going to
wait
happen.
to dump my Luke Dash Jr. coins.
You won't be able to. That's the problem. The right thing to do is actually, if you disagree with the way things are happening, you go and you compete. You fork off and then you compete. Or you try the soft fork, you realize you didn't have enough support, and then you hard fork to make that soft fork continue, and then you compete against Bitcoin. But that's not what they want to do. That's the whole thing. That would be the right thing to do. But that's not what's happening here.
My understanding is you have to URSF if you don't like it.
No, you don't. You only have to URSF if there is an actual threatening amount of hash power that's willing to enforce it. I don't know about you, but I don't consider less than 1% a threat.
Hey guys, let's let Adam chime in.
I was just going to say, Mr. Huddle, you made a claim that the threshold was reduced to 55% for the activation. I'm just curious, is that a concern for you? Are you worried that this is a possibility of activating?
My only concern is U.S. pools and U.S. miners getting threats from lawyers, threatening if they don't do this for this reason, basically spooking them into running this. That's my concern.
So
and I
love
know
that
for a
word.
fact letters went out. Like letters went out months ago. So I'm pretty sure.
Concerned.
What's that?
You are concerned.
Yeah, I'm concerned about individuals running businesses that are forced to run something because of their fucking lawyers.
Well,
yeah,
I'd
that's
say this.
a concern. That's an attack.
I just want to make it really clear, because it sounds like you're saying on one hand there's no chance of this activating, but at the same time you're
No. There's a chance. No, it's guaranteed to split. That's guaranteed to happen. What I'm saying is that I feel bad for individual people that are running businesses, miners and pools, that are forced to run something that they don't want to run, and knowing they're going to lose money in the end. Because once this fork dies, it's going to die, and that's that. But the threat of law is still there.
Who's forcing them? I don't understand who's forcing anybody to do anything.
You have lawyers from Ocean that contacted. I don't know how public it is. I know that a couple of things got released a few months ago. Not a few months. It's probably like 5 or 6 months ago now, where Mara and Foundry got in some letters. I don't know how threatening those letters were. Obviously not threatening enough to force any signaling yet. But as time gets closer, the threats might get more real. I don't think this has any chance at all of not splitting. Like, it's guaranteed to split. The only thing that I don't know what's going to happen is after it splits, what's the plan? Is Luke really going to try to fire the miners and start an altcoin, which would be great? That's something I'd be for. Is he going to merge mine with the chain? Is he going to lower the difficulty like Bcash did to continue on with the chain? Because in Luke Dash Jr.'s eyes, the moment version 30 came out, And once it got adopted, Bitcoin dies. Bitcoin is dead. There's no way Bitcoin could survive. This is the mindset of Luke Dash Jr.
Look, I don't
Now,
speak for Luke. I don't speak for Ocean. I don't work for Ocean. The only thing I understand has happened is that lawyers were talking to each other about the threat of CSAM on the chain. I don't think there's anything there about threatening companies to do anything.
no, the idea is that if you don't run BIP 110, you're accomplice. You're an accomplice to this. That's the idea.
Okay, that's the idea. Where's the
Right.
threat?
So now, once the lawyers get involved and they start saying, okay, well, if we don't do this, and they start pushing this, we're gonna have to go to court, and because it's one thing to say, let's activate it at 85% threshold, 90% threshold, something where you actually have wide majority, and then the economic nodes, and then it gets activated. I'll be all for that. I wouldn't mind. Then that's Bitcoin. But doing it in this matter is an attack. It's not a good attack. I don't think it's going to succeed, but I think individuals are going to lose money. I don't think nothing's going to happen to the Bitcoin network. That's going to continue on like normal, but it's not good for these individuals that are on U.S. soil that have running Bitcoin pools and miners. That's not good for them at all.
Hey, I would just say this: have confidence that Pete Hegseth was sitting next to Fred Thiel at a presidential dinner, and I think the Department of War is definitely involved and knows what's going on. And there's information that the Department of War will get involved if the op return expansion proves beneficial to the network. So I'll just give you guys that tidbit.
So we're gonna
Hey, hey, Anon, if it's okay, let's go to J Dog, and then we can just get back on today's topic. And I mean, this is all good, and we discussed this a lot, but and thanks for bringing it up. But J Dog, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, there's no way that BIP 110 is going to succeed. The Wicked has been doing a lot of research on this. They have 1%, less than 1% of signaling blocks. So I don't think anyone is scared. That honestly, I've just been clowning on the BIP 110 guys and just mocking them because I use ordinals and runes every day. It's the transactions that I prefer to use. I don't. If you guys don't want to use them, that's fine, but it is on the network. It's been there since 2023. I don't. It really goes against the whole entire Bitcoin ethos of decentralization and permissionless. Like, if I want to fuck around with runes and ordinals, I shouldn't be having people shouldn't be trying to censor my transactions and institute this hostile fork. It really goes against everything in Bitcoin. But it's going to fail miserably because it does go against Bitcoin's ethos, and I'm going to be happy when it does. So I'm in support of BIP 110. I think it's going to be marvelous, and we're going to move on. Honestly, the top 5 ordinal collections have been outperforming Bitcoin the past 30 days. So I'm up while most of you guys are down.
The past 30 days. What a shitcoin scammer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that, but I will say that if you guys look in the nest, since 23, Luke has been censoring even the Samurai Wallet guys. So they are not a friend of sovereignty. They are not a friend of privacy. They are basically cuckozoids to the government and their status, right? That's just, look at Luke's, mask policy back in the COVID days. But yeah, we can move on. I just
Oh, I
had to put
remember
that up.
that.
No, that's not actually what happened there. I believe that there's something that they refused to change the code on within the Samurai wallets. It didn't have to have that censored. It was basically 2 companies disagreeing with each other about code.
No,
It was
it goes
about,
back to the op return wars from
yeah,
2014,
it
which
was
Luke
about
lost that as well. So, no, it was the 82 byte limit, and Luke was censoring the transactions through Ocean still back in 23. So, just
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. This also doesn't stop any of the spam. Stamps isn't affected at all, so people still use stamps. It doesn't affect runes at all. It doesn't affect the ordinals that are already listed, which that's what most people actually care about. They don't really care about the new ones coming out. So it's just not effective in stopping spam at all. And most likely, even if it were to get implemented, which again, like, it's less than 1% signaling blocks right now, we'll just find another way around it. It's a cat and mouse game, and we're going to continue to win and dominate.
We already established that filters are policy, and anyone can run their own filters. So calling it censorship is ridiculous.
it's not censorship.
Hey, Adam,
That's not censorship.
you want to think?
Doing it
You're
in
trying to change consensus of the network. That is the issue.
yeah, that is.
Let's let Adam have the final word here, since he was the one called out, and then we'll move on.
I just wanted to point out there's a few hundred people on this, and I want to just really kind of highlight something that Mr. Hoddle said that I thought was a very good point, and that is that none of this really affects Bitcoin long term, and everybody is welcome to run whatever node they want. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. That's what makes Bitcoin. That is what consensus is. So run the software that you want. That's my advice. I'll never tell you what software somebody else should run. I run my own, and you should do the same. That's all I got on that.
Yeah, beautiful and totally fair. Chadel, are you still there? Or Thomas, did you want to chime in? I will need to close out the show soon, but we still have a little space here for some dialogue.
Yes, I am still here. What should we move the chat to?
Oh no, that's what I was asking you. We might have lost momentum on the earlier thing, which is fine. We might have exhausted the
We
topic.
we have a long weekend coming up. I think the markets are closed tomorrow.
Wait, why is that?
I think it's just
Juneteenth.
What?
it seems like a silly holiday to me.
Wait, what is that holiday again? I don't
I think
know
it's the
that number.
19th of June. I think that's what
I
it
think
was.
it was
Yeah.
slaves in Texas sometime after the Civil War finally caught word that the Civil War ended slavery, and now they're recognizing that latent communications, which seems just like a weird federal holiday.
Yeah,
But
I didn't even know that was a number, 10th. Okay.
it's anyway, it's
It's a
great. Anyway, the
DEI
market's
holiday.
closed.
Wait, does that mean Costco's closed?
Yeah, it's nuts. But anyway, so I'm going to be at a bankster party this weekend. I'll be interested to hear what kind of conversations are happening. They won't talk about the stuff we talk about, I can tell you that, but it'll be interesting to see to what extent what's going on in the markets that we focus on every day pop up in general conversation. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to the party. We'll just as a point of intelligence gathering. I'd like to talk to people when I'm out and about, just to get a feel for what's going on. And people have heard me say this before, and I'll just say it again. It's almost like it's two worlds. There's a world of X that we hang out on and talk about these things. But then when you go out, and I don't like the term, but if you go out in the real world and start talking to people, they don't talk about any of this stuff. In fact, it's not that they don't talk about it. They're just not aware of 90% of what's going on. And when you get into more even some of the esoteric BIP stuff that's happening in the BIP wars, if you had 50,000 people, maybe 5 people even are aware of it, and they disagree on what we should do. So it's I have a strong belief that Bitcoin's going to be much bigger part of society. But and again, not to sound like a broken record, I just think that more people, we need broader adoption societally, and we're so early right now as to we'll look back on these days and say, you remember when we talked about this stuff? And it's going to be in the future, it's going to be quite different. It's just how we get there is we're going to require some patience and fortitude.
Well, hope to hear those conversations on Monday, Thomas. Blake, let's go to you. You're up here, and then after Blake, let's go around the horn and just get people's thoughts. What's on their mind right now with Bitcoin?
Yeah, and
Blake.
Blake, I'm going to jump in there and say, keep it short. We're not turning this into a 30-minute expose, but please, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Wait, is he one of those guys? Is he one of those 30-minute guys right when we're leaving?
Yep.
Oh boy.
My apologies. I came in late to this. I'm just very bullish, I guess, is what I want to communicate. I've been bullish for a long time. I think I'll continue to be so. And, I wish I would have, I don't know, studied more.
Beautiful. That wasn't 30 minutes, Chad. I don't know what you're talking about.
I love it. But Blake, bullish on what?
Oh, great. Now here you go. You're feeding the monster.
No, I'm just bullish. I don't think y'all are bullish enough. I
Oh,
think y'all
we
need
are
to study
bullish.
more.
We're bullish. We're doomerish on the fiat products, but we're bullish on Bitcoin. I could not be more bullish.
In the movie Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman said he was a good driver. So
Definitely good driver. All right, Astro, you're up here, and then we'll go to Mars. What's up, guys? How you doing? I don't have much time. I just want to address what Thomas said. It's the exact reason my partner and I created a Bitcoin education app. Send those people to my app. I want to plug my app. It's got all kinds of education, thousands lines of code. Check it out. I put it in the pill on your guys' space. Thank you. Great. Thousands of lines of code makes me want to go there right away. How about you, Mars?
Thanks for having me up today. Yeah, I
You
guess
can
I'll
earn sats on it too.
I'll
Wait, you're not Mars, Astro. Let's go to Mars.
Astro. I'll post your bangers, bro. Don't worry. Send them to the DMs. We'll get it out there. We'll get this app everywhere, bro. But anyways, yeah, I'll close out by taking a small victory lap for the neocons. You know, we were promised global food shortages, millions dead, 20% contractions to the global energy markets, and here we are, baby. WTI is in the 70s. You know, the market keeps churning. Bitcoin's in a little bear market. That's okay. But guess what? The bulls are going to win in the long run. Don't crash out over bad news. The world is messed up. That doesn't mean we need to be crashing out about it all the time, right? Like we need to just keep chugging on, keep positive, and yeah, neocons for the win. Let's go.
Hey, real quick, Mars, what happened to those videos where you could comment on someone else's video? I don't even have that optionality, and I saw you had it
The
from day
React?
one.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, those are
is that
fun.
coming to everybody's account?
Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
You just hit retweet, and when you hit the
No,
retweet,
I know, but I've done that, and it doesn't show up. And then when you ask Grok, it says it's being rolled out slowly to only
oh,
select
weird.
people.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to when you get the React functionality. I'll
Okay,
boost your bangers, bro.
so I guess just retards first. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
that's right. That's right. All
All
right.
right, let's go to Sofon and then G Money.
Hey, thanks. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I love the work that you guys do here. My point is, I'm really interested to see what this whole outcome will be with strategy, and I think this, whatever happens, will guide the future of all these treasury companies. So he does have an ability to do something and prove that his strategy is strong, that having Bitcoin as a collateral is a great thing. He has an opportunity to do something that will prove that you know it's worth investing in that company and trusting Michael Saylor. So however, there's the other side of the coin that we talked exhaustively here. So I'm paying a lot of attention on that and the reaction the Bitcoin price is going to have as these events roll down. But anyways, thanks very much. And long term, I am bullish on Bitcoin, no doubt. Right.
Yeah, copy that. How about you, government money?
Yeah, look, treasury companies are going to be the future. Uh, this is how we expand the Bitcoin network to other individuals. Derivatives and stuff are going to happen. Tokenization is going to happen, and there's plenty of other folks out there that we can attack, and we should try not to eat our own as much as we try to do in these spaces because I can tell you that the treasury companies are where it's going to be for the normies because those are absolute atom bombs to the current financial system, right? They are absolutely, completely threatened by what is happening and how this is transforming. And so understand that we're under attack. This is a war. The treasury companies are they're rough, right? They are being absolutely attacked in multiple different ways. But we're going to come out on the other side of this. And so, stack as much self custodial Bitcoin as you can. Try to throw a little bit in some of the treasury companies that you believe in, like MicroStrategy or Naka or something, and have optimistic view because we're absolutely going to win, and the best is yet to come.
And pay your taxes, right, G
Yeah,
Money?
make sure you pay your taxes to pedophiles, to fund genocide, biolabs, and Somali daycare centers. So make sure you do that.
And vote harder.
Hey, vote hard, vote extra hard, Terrence, because you learned, I think, that voting definitely works.
And pay for LinkedIn Premium.
And I actually missed Lauren, so I don't know where Lauren is. Lauren, if you're hearing this, we miss you. Please come back because there's only so much Terrence we can all deal with.
He went to seek help. Adam, let's go to you and then throw it back to the co-hosts.
Not much to add here. Just great space. Thanks for letting me be a part of it, and enjoy talking with y'all. Have a great day.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks for being balanced and level-headed. Always appreciate your viewpoint. Anon, you want to go? You and Chad?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Just want to acknowledge Odell for maybe meme of the year with Gen Z boss in an orange tie up in the nest.
Wait, where is it in the nest? You did it a long time ago?
Yeah, it's in there. You got to scroll through it, but
Okay, let me
meme of the
see
year,
here.
I think.
Odell. Oh, yeah, exactly. No, it's so true. Yeah, the orange ties. Okay, Chaddle, Cholo.
So everybody have a great day from block 954276. I just, I keep coming back to there is no other asset like Bitcoin. This difficulty adjustment, which is just beautiful to see that just, occurred, 4 days ago, let's call it. The blocks on average every 10 minutes, utilizing transaction fees and putting the transactions in the block. This thing is an absolute marvel. I agree with G Money that we are in a war. The fiat system is incredibly entrenched. It's going to be volatile. It's going to be bouncy, but in the long run, this has the potential to make the world a better, fairer place. And I'm just honored to be here with you all. Thanks for all the commentary and the input. Have a great 3-day weekend. Terrence, are we doing the show tomorrow or not? Given that we have the markets are, on hold other than Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah, because Bitcoin isn't closed.
Perfect.
Bitcoin's open 24/7, so we are open 24/7, except, of course, Saturdays and Sundays.
Perfect. So look forward to
That made no sense.
look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And Terrence, turning it over to you.
Yeah, so, we know we always have to put on our wide angle. We know where Bitcoin's going, especially those of us who have been here. A lot of this is really just noise. Some of it's interesting, though, because it does help highlight how important Bitcoin is and how impervious it is to everything else that happens. But even in the short term, I think this year still is going to be a phenomenal year. I think there's a lot coming. And looking back at some of the past bear markets that I at least have endured, I really think this is one of the best times to accumulate if you haven't gone all in or haven't chosen Bitcoin as your money. I'm glad Bitcoin is my money. Unfortunately, it means I can't necessarily acquire much more Bitcoin because it is my money, but I do get to sleep peacefully at night. And I don't enjoy the wreckage of all of the derivative products or the synthetics or the things that are attached to Bitcoin's magical elixir. But I just remind myself that they all need Bitcoin's magical elixir to do what they do. So I can just go straight to the source and don't have to have all these other layers. Anyways, that's it. Take us out, Cholo.